The scapegoat's instinct to include others. In my work with individuals who have survived being the scapegoat in their family of origin, I'm almost always struck by their deep capacity to understand, empathize with, and offer acceptance to the experience of other people. And it's striking because these people exhibit these instincts despite, at least for the most part, not knowing this kind of treatment firsthand in the homes they grew up in. It's like the option to reject, judge, condemn, or put down has just never occurred to them or seemed viable. In today's video, I want to offer an understanding that hopefully celebrates this attribute of many scapegoat survivors of narcissistic abuse and explain how sometimes it can get in the way of creating needed distance from one's narcissistically abusive parent or partner. And watch until the end because I'm going to offer a strategy to challenge the notion that creating boundaries for yourself in this way means excluding others who actually deserve your inclusion. My name's Jay Reed and I'm a licensed psychotherapist in California, and I specialize in helping individuals recover from narcissistic abuse. We do this in individual therapy and through my online course and the accompanying private Facebook group. Someone who's been scapegoated by a narcissist has been blamed for all kinds of problems, then essentially kind of sent into emotional exile. And within that exile, when you begin to question whether you deserve that blame, then the next task, I think, is to sort of find your way to a home that is comfortable and safe for you. And that home may be a place you've never been or felt before, but you likely have a deep sense that it's where you want to be. A place where you get to view and relate to yourself with compassion, patience, respect, and connection. And I think recovery from narcissistic abuse for the scapegoat survivor involves finding your way to your new and safe home within yourself. One thing that can be, I think, tremendously helpful in this process of finding one sort of new home is coming upon a map to get to that home within oneself and in new or re-engineered safe relationships. And I think that the map contains what I like to call the 3 pillars of recovery that really let the survivor know how they got here, where they want to go, and how to get to where they want to go. So the pillars are this. Pillar number 1 is making sense of what happened to know the narcissistic abuse was not your fault. Pillar number 2 is gaining distance from the narcissistic abuser, whether it's psychological, emotional, or physical distance. And pillar number 3 involves living in defiance of the narcissist's rules. And lastly, you can't do this in a vacuum. I think it's essential to find and participate in communities of people who can get, validate, and support you on this path. I want to say that today's video falls under pillar number 2 of gaining distance from the narcissistic abuser. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to learn more about my online course and these 3 pillars of recovery by clicking here or finding the link in the description box below. And if you haven't already, I also encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you're notified when I post new videos on this topic. So why does the scapegoat survivor often feel so inclusive towards others? Well, I think the scapegoat survivor knows firsthand how painful it can feel to be singled out and rejected by a group that you just want to belong to, your own family. It makes no sense to the scapegoat when it's happening. If that group is your only hope of belonging to anyone, then the scapegoated person has to find a way not to blame that group for their rejection, but rather for the scapegoat to blame themselves. All the while, many scapegoats have an exquisite inner record of how painful this entire ordeal is for them. But why would this lead to wanting to protect others from feeling this way, feeling so excluded? I think that by virtue of knowing their own feelings so well, it becomes easy to feel empathy towards others who might feel similarly. And I'm talking about scapegoat survivors. And in addition, and this is anecdotal, not based on research findings that I can cite, but the scapegoat survivors may also be endowed with a higher genetic capacity for empathy. And we do know that empathy comes in 2 forms: cognitive empathy and emotional or affective, affective empathy. One study found that genetics accounted for about 50% of a child's ability to demonstrate emotional empathy. Of course, that begs the question of how the scapegoated child ended up so empathic if they had a narcissistic parent who often has, very low emotional empathy. But I'll leave that to the geneticist. Suffice it to say that my argument here is that scapegoat survivors may be operating on a sort of natural endowment for compassion and emotional empathy and connection to the feelings of others, at least having much more than the other family members they're surrounded by who are putting them in the scapegoated role. So it can be knowing firsthand how painful rejection can feel and possessing a higher than average amount of empathy. I think both those factors can predispose the scapegoat towards feeling inclusive towards others. Similarly, the scapegoat child was often forbidden to say what they just did not like in general. At least what they did not like about the narcissistic parent or narcissistic abuser, whomever that happened to be. It really may have been a matter of survival to show continued appreciation towards the narcissistic parent, regardless of the scapegoat child's true preferences or opinions. Given the limited available options for sources of self-worth while in the narcissistic family, the scapegoat may have derived pride from their willingness to see the good in everyone else and to respond to them in kind. In this way, the scapegoat may feel like a bad person or even without worth if they entertain negative thoughts or feelings towards others. It may feel like you're losing the one thing that makes you special and worthwhile. Well, I want to talk about the challenge of being inclusive when it comes to recovery from narcissistic abuse. As adaptive a trait as compassionate inclusion is for the scapegoat survivor, this practice can also interfere with the second pillar of recovery, that is gaining distance from the narcissistic abuser. It's often an important milestone in recovery when a scapegoat survivor grows to feel safe in exercising discretion over whom they do and do not offer inclusiveness to. And this is an important step in development because they've had to act inclusively towards someone who is acting rejectingly towards them, the narcissistic abuser. And as a result, the scapegoat has had to compromise his or her own self-care by keeping someone close to them who's treating them poorly. And I believe that it takes repeated experience in new, safe relationships to kind of post-traumatically learn that it's now safe to exercise discretion without losing the people they need most in life. And importantly, this was not the case in the past, but is now a possibility in the right relationships. So choosing to create and maintain distance from a narcissistic abuser may require some compassionate self-talk when feelings of guilt or self-blame emerge. You can reframe the right to exclude people that mistreat you as a non-injurious act of self-care for yourself. And for a time, your feelings may not agree with this reframing, and that's okay. With repetition and execution of exercising this discretion to limit your exposure to those who mistreat you, your system, your nervous system, your mind, your actual brain itself will gradually get to know it's safe to adhere to this more sort of cognitive reframing of what it means to exercise such discretion. That is to say that your feelings will likely catch up with this mental reframe when you are being reinforced in safe relationships in these ways. Well, I hope you found today's video helpful in challenging the notion that you must always act inclusively towards everyone in your life. If someone is not treating you well, despite your efforts to treat them well, then you're entitled to move away from them. And I think after surviving narcissistic abuse as a scapegoat, this may be an unfamiliar experience, but one well worth practicing. Well, again, thank you for watching today's video. I look forward to posting again next Friday. And again, want to thank you as I want to every week for your continued engagement with this channel, with the comments that are posted. They're just extremely insightful, compassionate towards oneself, towards other posters, and it's just again a wonderful community to get to have the privilege to read these comments each and every week. And again, thank you for your continued submission of video ideas, and I continue to mine those, and we'll be posting videos that correspond directly to those comments in the near future, and interspersed as well. Okay, well, thank you, and I'll see you next week.